Hey everyone, this is Randy from BibleBuyingGuide.com. Today I'm taking a look at the King James Version Thompson Chain Reference Bible from Zondervan in 3 different sizes. I have the handy size, the regular size, and the large print. All these are made in USA, and they are from the Kirkbride files, and I have 3 different covers. So I have bonded leather, I have hardcover, and for the large print, I have the brown leather soft. And I like all 3 of these, and I think I'm leaning more toward the brown leather soft. So let's take a look. This is the standard Thompson that you're familiar with. Nothing has changed as far as the content, except Zondervan has added note paper in the back. Let's take a look at that. All 3 editions have note paper. So in the back are 18 pages for notes. Now this is the regular Bible paper, and then all of the tools and everything else is here. It does have the Bible maps, paste down liner. The paper itself, I think, is 30 GSM. And I will go ahead and say up front, my favorite of the group is the large print. It does have a slight bit of cockling in the center, but it's not as bad as the regular size, and especially not as bad as the personal size. This one is the worst of the group. This one also, the text goes further into the gutter because that stays flat, and so we lose a little bit of the text in there. You can see it, you can read it, it's just a little bit more difficult. The print is a little bit lighter in the personal size because it's such a thin font, such a lightweight font. That stands out a little bit more in the large print. A little bit more show through in the regular size because of how much ink is on the page compared to the personal size. The red is maybe a medium darkness, but it's still a light font. It's a lightweight, so it doesn't stand out. A little bit of variation in the print quality, so we'll have a little bit light and a little bit dark. Not much, but just enough to notice. This one is a paste down liner in the black bonded leather. Bonded leather is smooth. It looks a little bit like ironed calfskin. It doesn't feel like ironed calfskin though. And it does have perimeter stitching. And there's the spine, a single ribbon, sewn binding. All these are made in USA. Sometimes forget to say where things are made. But everything else is the same as far as Thompson material. Everything is here. So this one we have a gold ribbon with a dust jacket, and then get into the Thompson material. I'm thinking 30 GSM on the paper. I could be wrong there. Still, for the money, it is excellent for the money. Now the large print is my favorite. It is a little bit floppy, so holding it and carrying it for this size is a little bit more difficult than what I like, but still. Paste down liner, vinyl instead of paper. I don't like paper liners. Vinyl liners are good. All are Smythe sewn. Now this one, the font comes out darker simply because it's a larger font. It is easier to read. It does have a good amount of white space in the text. This is identical as far as what it is on the page. It's identical to the Kirkbride. And then there's our red. This red is a lot darker, a lot more noticeable than, say, this red. A lot more noticeable. Let's see if you can, we'll zoom in for a second. There's how that red looks versus how that red looks. And let's take a look at this one's red before we start comparing to the Kirkbride editions. The red on the regular edition is a lot lighter, a lot more noticeable. So there's that one. So let's compare these to the actual Kirkbride editions of the same models. So the cover that I have for the large print is hardcover. and you can see they are the same size. Here's the red letter and black letter. See how they compare. We'll go to the same page for both, so page 1086. I find this paper easy to turn. So here's how they compare. And the red letter, a little bit difficult to compare since they're so large. But the difference in material is the Kirkbride does not have note paper. But all the indexes and everything else is the same. And this one does not have the cockling issue. The paper seems to be more opaque. Not quite as much show through. Not so bad though. A little bit more opaque on the Kirkbride. Now the regular size. Now this one is the last model made by Kirkbride, and it's made in China. The quality seems to be the same. I can't tell any difference between it and the last model made in the US. Seems to be the same paper. Everything else is the same. And like the others, this has a little bit more opacity on the paper. And also like the standard Thompson, that's the atomic pink versus the darker red of the Zondervan. Although the darkness doesn't show as much simply because of how light the font is. It's a lightweight font. So here's how they compare. And this one does not have the cockling issue. And also this one does rise up a little higher in the spine. It's got that spine concaving. And that means that you don't lose as much of the material in the inner margin as you do with the Zondervan. I'd like to see that rise up a little higher and have a little bit more margin space. But there's how they compare. And the next is the personal size. This one is my favorite to use and carry. However, the font is a little bit small for me. If I could read this one well enough, this would be my favorite. No question about it. It would be my favorite. I like small Bibles anyway, and it has the exact same material. No difference in material. So here is the personal size and how they compare. And like the others, the font on the Kirkbride is a little bit darker, and it does have the show through seems to be maybe more opaque on the Kirkbride. It's a little bit more difficult to tell because the font is not as dark. I think the paper in the Kirkbride is a little more ivory, while the Zondervan is a little white, a little bit more white. And you can see that we have more space in the inner margin in the Kirkbride. That's because this rises higher. I'm sure that won't last as long, but I actually prefer this simply because we have the space here, and you can actually write in the inner margin if you need to. Whereas with the Zondervan, you don't get that. And it is more difficult to read. It is readable, but it is more difficult to read. And both of these are bonded leather, so that's how they compare. I spelled my name wrong. Oh well. So that's a quick look at the Thompson chain reference in KJV. I didn't really cover much on the Thompson itself. I've reviewed the Thompson multiple times, so I will place a link in the notes where you can see a detailed review of the Thompson. It is one of my favorite study Bibles of all time. It is very close to influence-free. Not 100%, nothing can be 100%, but it is very good. It has 8,000 topics. So if you're into studying topics, this one is hard to beat. It doesn't include commentary. It's a reference system, and the text itself is clean. So if you look at just the text and don't pay attention to the reference system, it's a fairly clean text. And then you have references over here if you need them. So the Thompson, yeah, it's absolutely one of my favorite Bibles. I'll place a link in the notes where you can make a purchase if you're interested, and also to Bible Buying Guide where you can see the written review. I'm not going to cover a lot of information because I have already reviewed the Zondervan Thompson in the other models, and also I've reviewed the Thompson multiple times anyway. So I am going to place a lot of photos so that you can see more about these Bibles, and then you can see links to other reviews. My favorite of the group is the large print. I like the size of the hand size. That's my favorite size. But the large print is my favorite of the Zondervans because it's darker font, and I just find it easier to read and use. It doesn't get lost in the gutter. It doesn't have the cockling issue as bad. If it's there at all, it's so minor it doesn't matter. So if I could buy one and I didn't care what size it was, I would buy the large print without question. So I'll place links in the notes. Zondervan did supply these in exchange for an honest review. If you have any questions, let me know. I won't promise I can get to them all. I do get a lot of questions, but I will get to those that I can. And thanks for watching.